In Washington, D.C., the streets were full of sparrows picking bones out of KFC buckets. Children selling candy bars, homeless men shouting, "God bless you," to anyone who would throw them a dime. I moved to the city the year the tsunami hit Indonesia. Katrina hit New Orleans. People took refuge from Darfur. On the bus, a woman with no teeth asked if she could move in with me. I told her yes, then got off at the nearest stop. It was hard to tell who was homeless or insane. Everyone wore the same black wool coat. A man named Cowboy kept running into me on sidewalks. He never asked for a handout, but one day I traded him $1 for some shampoo and a book he had found in the trash. It was the year I got a job raising funds for a girl with no shoes. Discovered the cheapest pizza was on Columbia Street, and found a man who would hold me all night when neither one of us could sleep. I loved that city. Loved the way the metro sounded like an empty cathedral. The way mist obscured the National Monument. How easy it was for me to navigate my way from home to work and back. But then in November, the leaves fell. A boy at a bus stop threw up on my shoes. A homeless man tried to open-mouth kiss me on the street. I returned home to find my keys locked inside. I walked back over a bridge and saw a man and his son pull fish from the freezing water of the Potomac. It was the year the cement filled with their naked gills, the night filled with fog, the geese waddled away, and I saw the moon appear in the water like the face of a woman stepping alone into the cold. I drove up to Vancouver, Canada, and if you've never been, Vancouver is a beautiful city. It's just bluer than blue, and the mountains are bigger and the trees are greener, and it's just fantastic. But if you go to Chinatown, there are people who are addicted to drugs on every corner, everywhere. And so that's a little tidbit you need to know for this poem, which is not really about drugs, but it's called, it's about love, so it sort of is. It's called How to Forget a Man. Drive to Vancouver, Canada. Notice how the sky gets bluer in the north. Find your way to a coffee shop in Chinatown. Ask the man behind the counter for a small, no sugar, no cream. Sit in front of a window and watch a heroin addict shoot up in broad daylight. Notice how the veins in her leg throb with the flow of whatever it is that makes heroin so good. The smile of a poppy, maybe. Go into the restroom and tear up the picture you keep in your pocket. Return to the counter and look at the woman with the needle. Drink slow and count your blessings. The cold sobriety of a future where nothing pumps in you anymore, except the thick uncertainty of blood, driving like a free woman down the highway of your veins. I've been writing poetry since I was in about 8th grade, I guess, but really started trying to get it published about 4 years ago. And this is one of the first that was ever published, so it's really got a very special spot in my heart. And it's on the broadside, and it's called The Jungle Tattoo. The man who lived in this apartment before me painted the walls jungle green, so they would look like the deep, round O of a forest pool in shade. But really, they remind me of the man himself, who, upon handing me the keys, had said he was a poet and had lived there 10 years alone, that the neighbors were quiet, but few of them friendly, and I should keep to myself. Then had turned down the hall, revealing through the cotton white lucidity of his shirt a back covered by the tattoo of a tiger, whose black eyes stared out from a tapestry of jungle vines, emerald embroidered branches, snakes like strings of topaz slithering away, as if slithering along with the man down the white fluorescent hall. And I want to ask him now, as I sit on the couch, rubbing my thumb over the needy brown upholstery, watching lights go out in the darkness I have inherited, if there is something that made him need to cover nakedness like loneliness in color. At what point in his 10 years alone did he decide on that tattoo? Was it in a moment like this, when night's charcoal shadow was closing like a hand over the yellow light of apartment windows, and the walls were going black in spite of the color, that he went to have his body pricked by a solid reminder that something could exist in absence, that the dark unholiness of a body with its isolated, heavy metal sting of solitude, purple bruises and blood-dark songs could also be the dark web of trees, a river, green leaves spread so wide they might shelter things like dewdrop and pollen, the rock-round back of beetles, waking in the dark to flap their wings through the heartless night, unafraid, so that when he would fall back into himself, alone in this room, he would land like that tiger, two paws dug into the solid earth, able to look up through the lucid green embroidery of the jungle's never-sleeping leaves to find even the inside of himself still illuminated by the stars. Very special spot in my heart for that one. This next one starts off with, I'd been teaching English and social studies and poetry. And at one point or another, they asked me to teach sex ed, which was just a terrible experience that never should have happened. 2 years ago, if you've just felt a disturbance in the force, that was me trying to teach things to my... Anyways, we won't talk about it. But I was a teacher for a long time, and I came across a journal of a student of mine who had autism, and he was asked, what are some of your dreams in life? And he said, my dream in life is to reach out and touch an iceberg. I thought that was beautiful. So this poem is called Dear Iceberg. Here is the glass moon hung over a table of snow, the flower vases offering up their blossoms of ice. Up here, iceberg, we have broken glass, broken ships, splinters of oars lost by the Romans, and the Toyota broken down on the side of the 101. Up here, iceberg, we have whole lexicons for loneliness, a rocket ship that cannot reach farther than the moon. Iceberg, we are all silent wanderers, but some of us have cell phones, the internet and airplanes, and people who will hug us morning and night. Iceberg, we've got mirrors. We've got photos of our planet from space. Iceberg, we've got images of you on our laptops, in a small room, in a small school, a boy we cannot understand, writes to you. I picture him now in a ship in the southernmost part of the planet, reaching his fingers into the night. Tell me, iceberg, do you enjoy these small, dark hours on the darkest part of Earth? The silent conversation you hold with the aurora australis, the whale swimming under your belly. Iceberg, do you feel the breath of a seal on your skin? The heart of the bear beating, hot in the confines of your wet and wild ice. In my first studio apartment, a green dish I am trying to get clean falls and breaks. The broom handle comes apart in my hand. The dustpan has a crack. Just now, the phone rings. My best friend has called to tell me my first boyfriend just got married to a woman who is short and skinny and deeply religious. I say thanks, then hang up. Go back to the sink and scrub week-old Alfredo sauce from a plate, imagining this one scene where I return to my high school reunion in an old, used, navy blue car. My eyeliner still askew, my legs unshaven. Everyone I know lines up to show me pictures of their children, which fall like cascades from their brown wallets down to the dirt-colored linoleum of the gym floor, until I wish it would just open up and swallow me, like I used to wish it would just open up and swallow me when I was in high school. This is a stupid, unfair world. My dishes spin out of control like drunken test pilots. My candy apple red purse holds credit cards, but my once pure heart holds only the seeds of vehement rancor about ready to burst forward onto the world, and yet I am content. You see that window, open to a night quiet as gray doves mating. If I reach my head over the sill, I will hear the sound of a breeze, like the sound of two turtles swimming into dark water as if for a rescue. What is it about this world that seems suddenly so familiar? Like the hand of a child reaching all the way from heaven to earth, coming through the lone, breakable night just to reach out and check for my pulse. Another one of my student stories, the first year I was teaching, I asked my students, why do we read poetry? And you never know what kind of response you're going to get from that, so I had like a lot of really good things prepared to explain to them why they should love it. And one of my students who's very, very hyperactive suddenly got really quiet. She raised her hand and she said, Ms. Haefner, sometimes I don't feel very happy and I'm really sad. And then I'll read a poem and I'll start to feel something again. And then I'll feel really happy again. She got really bright-eyed and back to her normal self. But I thought, shit, I don't have to do anything from here on out. They've got it. I just have to show up and bring them some Robert Frost, which I did for the next 3 or 4 years, and it was awesome. But the point of that story is, for me, I feel the same way about reading Frank O'Hara's poems, Steps, or Personal Poem. If you haven't checked those out, they're great. And I just, can be in a really bad mood and read Steps or read Personal Poem, and I feel better. So this is a poem called Reading Frank O'Hara at the Blue Rock Shoot Cafe. California, early afternoon. I read one of Frank O'Hara's lunch poems, The Pleasure of a Sandwich, a Cup of Coffee, a Walk Around New York City. It is spring in Saratoga. Dogwood and magnolia open over hair salons. The responsible dust lifts from suburban community gardens. I stop at the Blue Rock Chute Cafe for a cup of coffee and a walk across the bridge that crosses the stream from the cafe to the park. On the other side of the water, someone is getting married. I see her wedding train disappear behind the oak and olive. All winter, I have been writing about love and loss. My poems are full of themselves. But at least I have moved from addressing the you, as in, you left me like a can of tuna open and empty on the counter, to addressing the benevolent reader with, and he left me like a can of tuna open and empty on the counter. I am tempted to open my book and write another poem about the cruelty of love and spring breeding memories out of the dead earth, the heart like a nail rusting in the bridge's railing, or leaves fallen next to the trash bags in the stream. But today I am reading the poems of Frank O'Hara. I have a sandwich and a patch of sunlight on a bridge. In the park, the bride and groom dance slowly past the lilacs. Blossoms land on her fluttering train. I finish my coffee and watch the flower girl come out from hiding under her tree in the shade. This will be the last one. This one is called This Morning in the Still Dark. This morning in the still dark, I walk towards my car. Overhead, an airplane passes. People are up there. A woman sleeps in the aisle seat. A man eats peas with a plastic spoon. One of them was my father in a previous incarnation. My ex-wife, a nurse who saved my life on a battlefield. I was one of their mothers, one of their brother's classmates, a bookseller who sold a copy of Ovid's Metamorphosis. Maybe a boy who milked the goat they owned. Some kitchen hand they watched peeling turnips, listening to the way watery skins hit the side of a tin bucket. On this planet, lifetimes ago, centuries, someone they passed only once in the street, in a forest, nodding distantly over an oak branch without speaking. And here I am this morning again, standing on the ground, watching the lights of the airplane pass, waiting for the lifetime when we will finally meet.
Thank you.